Doodlebud here. Today we're checking out this lovely machine. This is the Qidi Plus 4 3D printer. Just finished a nice batch of products that I am printing, and this has solved one of the biggest issues and hesitancies I've had with 3D printing, and that's producing large quantities of parts that come out absolutely perfect. So now I have a box full of the parts I need to send out, and they are just done. I picked them up all off the machine, perfect condition. This has made life a breeze. Let's go through some of the details on the printer. Now, this was sent to me by Qidi to do a review with. I'm also going to be using it for a bunch of products. This on top of my bar fridge is the previous one I've had, the King Room KLP1. Good machine. It's a budget-friendly XY core machine. It has worked okay, but trying to get really high quality prints and a bunch of them, especially if you want to sell, it just wasn't able to do that. So this one has been fantastic. Let's get you inside and show you some more. The print volume on this one is huge. 305 by 305 by 280 millimeters for the Americans out there watching. 12 by 12 by 11 inches. There has been an upgrade to the belts. Now what this does is it helps with ringing, essentially reducing the amount of vibration that you get in the motion system. And if you have vibration in your motion system, that's going to show up in your prints. Now this has a lot of similar features to the Bamboo Labs. I don't have a Bamboo Labs printer, but one of the features that has is the wipage for the nozzle. This has it too. So as part of the routine when it does the prints, it just goes ahead, it comes back here. I'll get you up close, and there's a little pad. It's like a little mini print bed, same type of material. It'll heat up, clean off the nozzle, and then there is a little wiper. Now I'll get you up close. Now this is something I have noticed. I'm not sure if this is replaceable or not, but you can see some of those have worn down. So I am curious if that is a part that can be replaced. And also what it does after it wipes and cleans the nozzle, there is some poopage that goes on. So it will extrude and clean off the nozzle, and then it will eject these little filament turds out the back. And here's a close-up of what I have out the back of my printer. Of course, it has a heated chamber, so you got a few fans in here. There was a recent upgrade. The very first ones that came out, I guess there was an issue with the circuitry that controls the heating, and there is some potential safety problems going on. I just got a new kit. I will be installing right after this. The new ones coming out of the factory already have that upgrade. Here's what the kit looks like. I'll leave a link in the description, so if you have an existing one, you should have got one. If you haven't, reach out to them. Circuit board change, they provide all the tools. There's even an instruction video. It takes about 10 minutes to do. The outside of the machine, it looks like metal. It's plastic, which is totally fine. If it was metal, it would make this thing already heavier, which it already is fairly heavy. But you have some nice foam to help with the heat insulation, but also to help with noise. I have this here set up in my office. This is my workspace here, and running this printer in the background while I'm on Zoom calls or other things I'm doing. Normally, if I'm running this machine over here, it's quite loud. You can hear it in the background. This one, with the front door closed, top cover plate on, it is pretty darn quiet. I'm actually quite surprised. I stand right next to it and run my prints while I'm working. This thing is absolutely fantastic. I've been very happy with the noise level. Let's pop off the top cover here on the print head. And now it is an 80-watt bimetal print head, and it can go up to 370 degrees. So that will help handle all those new exotic filaments that are coming out, especially like some of the high temp ones with carbon fiber. Here's a close-up of the print head for all the enthusiasts out there. There also is a cutter in here. I haven't needed to use it, but I guess if you had a jam and for whatever reason the filament's not coming out, you need to cut it off, you could do that to get in there and do what you got to do. For the Z-axis, you have dual motors on here, and the guide shafts are all 10 millimeters. That's to help with rigidity and accuracy on your prints. Also, the print bed is 6 millimeters to help improve flatness as well. Also kind of helps retain the heat more too. We have dual fans on both sides for heating up the chamber, 400 watts of power. All the specs will be on the Qidi site. I'm going to spend most of this review here going over my prints and my results and all that type of stuff, any issues I've had. If you want all the specs, go onto their site, but I believe the chamber gets warmed up to 65 degrees Celsius. There is a mode if you want to heat up and dry out your filaments. I don't find that to be as energy efficient. That's a lot of volume. I mean, I guess if you're going to fill the whole thing up, you could do that with your filaments, but I just use a small little filament dryer instead. Speaking of filaments, I do recommend getting a good one. So for me right here, this Creality Hyper Series has been absolutely fantastic. I've had zero issues. Every print with this stuff has been great. Plus it's designed for the high speed. Same with my eSun that I have on here too. Almost used it all up. It's cool looking orange. I made this little spool holder here too. The file was included with the printer. This stuff has been absolutely flawless, but there has been one that has given me nothing but trouble. And that would be this stuff here. This is the Elegoo Rapid PLA Plus meant for high speed. I bought 2 big spools of the white to print all sorts of parts, and it has screwed up every single part. I haven't had one come out in good condition, so I don't know if I got a bad batch or what the deal is with this stuff, but all I can tell you, it's been nothing but trouble, so I can't recommend it. But the Hyper Series by Creality or the eSun High Speed, that stuff has been flawless. Speaking of flawless, let's talk about first layers. Pretty good. Like, you know, this is just absolutely fantastic. I haven't had first layers come out this good before. This is just an 80mm square. I was doing a few points on the bed. I mean, these things are just absolutely fantastic. So no issues there. I did end up having some issues a little later on. There was a software and firmware, a firmware update, and I didn't quite observe the updates they were doing. I was trying to get in there, manually adjust things. I ended up screwing it up. The only issues this printer had was bad filament and bad guy behind the camera tweaking things and not realizing I was messing it up. So there have been some updates to automate this thing even more. And I gotta tell you, those updates have been fantastic. This is the very first Benchy that came off. This was their super, super high speed one. I forget what the print time was on this. Here, I'm just checking on the computer now. Yeah, it ran 16 minutes looking at the software. So, you know, a little bit fast, you're getting a little bit of string. Not too bad, a few little issues you can see around the corner there. But then I went ahead and just slowed it down, did a little bit of a nicer Benchy. I think this was somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know, 25 minutes, something like that. You can almost read the writing on the back here. I've never been able to see that on any Benchy I've done, but just it comes out really, really nice and clean. So I was super happy with that. Let's show you some of the prints that I ran. So this was a little fidget spinner that I downloaded online. I'll leave a link down in the description if you want to learn more about it to credit those who designed this. I'll do that for any parts that I print that weren't mine. But this was fantastic. I've printed things like this before with my resin printer, and I always usually had tiny little issues. These things came out absolutely fantastic. Like, just put it in there. All I had to do, even as far as settings, I have essentially done 0 temperature towers, retraction towers, anything like that. All I did was added the filament into the slicer software. It's running Orca, so I'll show you the software here in a second. Just put in the manufacturer specs, send the files to the printer, and everything's come out right. I did have one of them mess up just a little bit. I wasn't quite happy with the edge. I turned the temperature down. That was the wrong way, and I only made spaghetti one time, and that was this. I just didn't put in the right temperature, so then I just upped the temperature, and then it came out absolutely great. A neat thing here with the printer too, I'll show you in a moment, is you can control it from your phone. There's an app so you can check in on your print or send it prints as well. So I had left the office for the day, send this print over, and checked on it, and then I noticed it was not turning out so well, so I just hit the stop command. Didn't waste as much filament as if I just let it keep going and came back the next day. So that was a really, really nice feature that you can, monitor your prints when you're not in town or not around the printer. And so this is really great for those of you who have this in a different room or me altogether at my office versus my home. You saw these parts right at the start of the video. Now this is a custom block. Now my channel is all about fountain pens. So I'm talking about a 3D printer today, so I do that every now and then. But this is a special block that is designed to adjust nibs on fountain pens. So these are going to be getting sent out to folks. And on the Qidi website, they talked about how you can't even see the lines. You can only see them under magnification. When I see stuff like that, I think, yeah, that's all marketing. I printed these and I go, yeah, that is actually true. I'll get you up close here again. I got the orange as well, but if we you can barely feel it. You cannot see these with the naked eye, especially on the white. Even if I go to the orange, I don't know if I can even get the lighting proper. I'm trying to show this as best I can. I am going to put a macro lens on with these parts here so you can see. you literally cannot see the layer lines. I didn't know that was possible with the 3D printer. So I was always worried about, quality of parts. Now with some stuff, depending on them, you can see certain little bits of lines here or there. These are being printed vertically like so. So sort of ideal scenario to really let the printer quality shine. But like you can just feel it on there. But honestly, you cannot see these lines. At least with my eyes, I sure can't. I'm back at home, and as promised, I said I would get you some close-up macro shots so we can check out the print lines. So I'm going to put this on my phone right now, and we're going to check them out. I have my fingerprint right there beside it for reference. White is tricky. I'll put the orange on in a second, but you can just see those lines here with this macro lens. With the orange, honestly, it's about the same. You can just see those lines. So that picture they have on the Qidi website saying they're really only visible with the macro lens, yes, I absolutely believe them. That is fantastic. I also printed this tray. When I'm doing my fountain pen reviews, I like to do size comparisons so you can put them in there, printed it in white so I get good contrast when I do my videos. The only thing you see is the seam because I didn't bother in the software, forgot to do it. I was in a bit of a rush. I forgot to put the seam over here in a corner. I'll show you some of the software details in a minute. Other than that, there's a little ink that got on here. Same thing, like you really can't see the layer lines unless you get it in the right light. These parts are turning out just fantastic. As a test, I also needed a little cell phone stand holder for my desk. Again, I'll leave a link in the description. This part I didn't design. And I thought, let me just try this without supports. Let's see how it goes. Printed it on its side. I think it was this side because, you do have a radius here, and without supports, it's kind of, you're really pushing it here, printing in midair. So you can see that one corner didn't turn out great as to be expected. But let's look at the hole patterns here on the bottom, these hex head patterns. There we go. There we got some focus. Like that is absolutely fantastic. We have a little bit of stringing, which is to be expected. Hit that with the hair dryer and you're clean. But if you look at all these details on here with absolutely no supports, I printed it this way, expecting it not to turn out so hot. Again, little details there. But I'm not going to bother printing a new one. I just want to see how it would do, and then I expected to have to reprint another one afterwards with supports to make it look nicer or not turn into a giant ball of goo. But yes, blown away by how well this printer is producing quality prints. So I'm sitting here in my car just waiting for my daughter's cheer practice to wrap up pretty soon, and I thought I would show you actually what I think is the coolest part about the printer. So just open up your Qidi app, connect to the printer. Obviously has to be on and have an internet connection, but now you're just running Clipper through your phone. So everything looks familiar here. It has to have a clean bed and you need to have some filament in there or else it can't do anything. But other than that, all you do is you go into your job list. I'm going to run another batch of 10 of those blocks and just let it do its thing. And I've done so many remote prints on this one. I could see the future being where the automation happens of changing out print beds and stuff like that. That would be pretty cool. Or it cleans it and picks the parts. But you just run it this way, and then the next morning I'll show up in my office and the parts are going to be ready. And here I just checked on the print to see how it's doing. It's just chugging along and looking forward to seeing the prints. But what did you know? I put the wrong filament in. I thought I'd give that Elegoo stuff one last try, and we are done, Rapid PLA. Here's a look at the software interface. Again, I don't own a Bamboo Labs printer, but it looks just identical as far as how that operates. So you're running Orca, so you can prepare your files on here. As you can see, this was the latest batch of those blocks that I ran. I've never used Orca before, so I was a little hesitant. I've been a Cura guy with my other printer before, so there was a little bit of a learning curve, but I've really been enjoying the software. I like how it's all in one. So you just have your different tabs up here. You got your prepare, put in all your settings, do your previews so you can play with all your different settings in there and monitor what's happening on your layer lines as you're going, checking your travel to see what's going to happen. Also in here too, so this is one little note. Again, I'm new to Orca, haven't used it before, but this was something I went in where up in the top corner, you can adjust where your seam position is. So on this tray here that I did where the default seam just went right in here, I would have moved it to the corner. And so you can go ahead and do that as I did with these nib blocks if we zoom in there. So I just took one, this is the master, put the seam right on a corner so it's essentially hidden. So it's going to show up right here where you're not going to see it whatsoever. And then I went ahead and copied that, put a whole bunch here on the plate. And oops, now I'm messing up my file. Put a whole bunch here on the plate, and they all have the seam in that exact same position. So when these parts came out, you didn't see in the seam, we hit it. Now once you're happy with your, the parameters that you're putting on your file and all that type of detail that you're doing, you preview it, it looks good, then you can just go ahead, you can send it to the device or just hit the print button and it just goes straight here. So I like this not having to go from one chunk of software to another. Everything's included right in here, which is great. And then the whole thing's automated. Let me just hit a print right now while my tripod's falling. We'll just make it simple. I'll just do their high-speed benchy so it's a really, really fast print. So there is a built-in camera. You can also do the time lapse. I'll show you some time lapses here too. It's not going to be the highest quality time lapse. So if you really enjoy doing super, beautiful time lapse videos, there's some YouTube channels out there that's really all they do. Gorgeous, high resolution time lapse of prints. This camera won't be sufficient. But for keeping an eye on your stuff, if you keep your printer in another room or just somewhere else altogether, you can monitor everything. And if it's going to mess up, other than me having bad filament or me changing some settings, I haven't had that come up at all whatsoever. But you can check on it and just let it do its thing. Now, speaking of messing up while it's getting ready, let me show you what I messed up. So I was looking to adjust the Z offset a little bit. I thought I needed to fine tune it. I was chasing the wrong thing. It ended up being the filament was causing the issue. So I went ahead and I was adjusting the Z height, doing the offset here in the software. After the firmware update came in, you don't want to do it there. You want to do it directly on the device. If you do Z offset adjustments here, you're really going to mess things up. Put the cover on while it's doing its thing so it's not so loud. And then you get an idea of how much it attenuates the sound, which is pretty good. But what you'll want to do, if for whatever reason you need to adjust the Z offset, you're just going to come here to the touch screen, click on this, and then you can do your fine-tune adjustments. I haven't had to do anything whatsoever since the new firmware that's on here. It's 100% automated. Does your bed leveling, your Z height offset. When it starts a print, it's going to go around and probe the areas of the print bed where your print's taking place, just to do that whole map, just to calculate the offset it needs to do. So it's, you just set it. I sound like Ron Popeil from those commercials. You just set it and forget it. And for me, that's been just a super important part. I don't have a bunch of time to spend on 3D printing. I have ideas. I want to make some parts. Some of them I can sell, make a few dollars, and fix some problems for other people. But I can't spend a lot of time chasing my tail with printer problems or having to really super fine-tune things and deal with issues and a bunch of wastage and everything else and quality. So this has just solved that problem. I have been very, very impressed with it right out of the gate. Let's walk you through the touchscreen panel here really quick. Now this does up to 600 millimeters per second, so it's got all the speed that you need for things. You can go in here, it's got all sorts of tools. So the auto bed leveling, which is good. The input shaping, so that's the vibration test to check for any certain frequencies. It'll update that on its own. Also your consumable drawing, if you want to do that, again, I wouldn't do it for one spool, but if you have a bunch, you can go ahead and do it that way. You can do your jobs and input them from your touch screen, and the screen is nice. You don't need a little stylus or anything like that. It's quite responsive, but it does take a little bit, I find, to load things. If you have a lot of stuff on here, it's a little bit frustrating to have to go through. The response time is a bit slow. I don't really do my jobs this way. Everything I'll do from my computer or from my phone. I can just go in the job list and do it that way. Your filament loading, unloading, everything else is here. Actually, I'll show you how easy it was to replace and unload and replace the filament. That was a breeze. I did it one-handed with the other hand holding the camera. Now there's no reason to do a one-handed filament change, but I thought I would see if I could, just for fun and to make it interesting for the video. This is the easiest filament changing printer I've ever used. You just push it in to get it started. It takes care of the rest. There's the little turd that pops out the back, and the print just starts, and away you go. It's very relieving when that first layer goes down and there's no issues. Now, on this particular print, I did get to test a feature I haven't mentioned yet. There is a little tensioner that's built in, so if you get a tangly-dangly spool like I do there, it will stop the print. And so I was lucky. I was able to take the spool off, untwist it, and just hit continue, away you go. You can also, purge it and reload if you need to. But this is always the moment where you're unsure. If this happens, is it going to continue on and still look just perfect in bond? And yeah, it just went. Now this is the only little nitpick that has come up with the printer. On the door here, there are these little steel pieces that are glued on to go on to a couple magnets to keep the door closed. Now one of them did come off. You can just see the glue stuck to the magnetic piece, but not to the glass. So either just a slight change in glue or surface preparation would fix that. That's honestly my only issue I've had with the printer so far, that either wasn't caused by bad filament or me messing with things and screwing stuff up. The door is really nice too, so it's not loosey-goosey where it's just gonna fly everywhere. It has a little bit of tension to it, so you can just close it quite nice. What I'm gonna do now is just let this print finish. I'll show you what the 16-minute benchy looks like again. I'll show you some of the time lapses that I did. So here are some of those time-lapse videos. I sped these up as well. I do apologize just that this is going to be a long video. I'm doing my best to answer every question anyone could possibly have about this printer before they consider purchasing one. We're at 81%, so this thing's hauling. While it's doing that, let me tell you a few little nitpicks. I like the software overall. I haven't used Orca before. I actually like it more than Cura now. One thing I wish it could improve is the calibration section. So there's only 3 things right now, if I can get you a focus there. It's the flow rate, pressure advance, and the max volumetric speed. It would be nice if there was some other things built into there, like your temp towers, retract, all those just sort of standard tests sometimes you have to do, especially with a new filament or a fussy filament. It would be nice if that was expanded. Connecting the printer to your phone is super easy. You just click on the Fluid account, a QR code comes up, you scan it with your phone, everything links up, it's great. Being able to control it from your phone was good, but you can't send it a new job. That is something I wish you could do. For example, I was at home designing a little knockout block late one night that I needed to do to solve a problem. I got the part all ready to go, made the STL, sliced it in the software, and then I was trying to send this file to the printer so it'd be ready for me when I got there. It only allows you to send files that are already in the queue. So again, this is a simple little part. It didn't take long to print, but I had to wait till I got to the printer in order to send it. The 16-minute benchy finished in 22 minutes. That just has to do with the preamble of cleaning out the nozzle, checking the bed, and everything else. And here it is. Let's see what a 16-minute benchy looks like. And there you go. Like, it's pretty clean. We got a little bit of stringing and all that type of stuff again. A little ringing on the edges, but for 16 minutes, that's pretty damn good. I am a quality over speed guy, but a slight little adjustment in some of the slicer settings, and you saw how good it can look. Checking out the Qidi site, I'm in Canada, it defaults to switching to me. So $10.99 in the US, it's $7.99. I think that is actually a very fair price for everything that you're getting. Check out the site for details. I'll have a link below. But overall, I have to tell you, I plugged in this machine, didn't do any testing as far as filaments or any of the stuff I've always had to do before I get successful prints. I plugged it in, loaded filament, which was a breeze, and away it went. I had issues because one, I had filament that just for whatever reason doesn't work well on this machine. Maybe I could spend more time really testing it, but I did as best I could and I still had problems. They were close, but I had issues. And then the other one was this guy here behind the camera, which is also tilting over with my tripod, but me messing up after a firmware update, and I didn't notice some of the changes. Stuff that you had to do a little bit of manual work before was now fully automated in there, and I was getting in there trying to change settings and messing up what the machine was doing all on its own. So for me, it's been mission accomplished using the Qidi Plus 4. Like I said before, the big hesitancy for me was producing prints that I feel are worthy of charging someone for. It's got to be the right type of quality, and do it within a reasonable amount of time and speed. This thing has just been fantastic. I send it prints, the prints come out. The only time something messes up is if I make an error, not the machine. For me to do is fill up all these bubble mailers that I ordered and start getting these out the door, which is great. There'll be a link down there in the description so you can get some more details on that. I'll do my best to answer any questions you have. Huge thanks to Qidi for sending me the machine to review. There's lots of other reviews out there. This is another one. Hope it helps you address any questions or things you have. It's a fairly glowing review, so you might think, oh, I'm just saying it because they sent me one. If you watch my other reviews, I tear things apart. If there's a problem, I find it, and I don't mind talking about it whatsoever. I just really haven't found any problems with this. It's a great machine, and for the price, I think it's a really good exchange. The only things, as I mentioned, was a little bit of software updates. That would be about it. That could, as far as improving the overall performance of the machine. We'll leave it there. I got a bunch more stuff coming up. Some fun projects will come out of this machine. We'll catch you next time.